This is Current Invective. I'm Steve Fournier. I'm in Hartford, Connecticut. It's September 12th, 2021. I'm reading. I'm going to put on glasses for this. As in Septembers past, media reflection on the 20th anniversary of the events of September 11th, 2001, did not include any discussion of what actually happened that day in New York City. In New York City, where the main event took place, 3 skyscrapers fell down because 2 got hit by airplanes. Over 2,000 people were inside the tallest of the buildings when they were reduced to dust about an hour after the initial impacts. The 3rd building, a half a block away and not penetrated by an airplane, fell down hours later with nobody inside. If that strikes you as a reason for further investigation, you're not alone. But you wouldn't know that if you rely on the mass media for news. According to one item of unreported news, a little more than half of a polling sample watching video of the collapse of that 3rd building thought it was intentionally demolished and not the result of fire, as our government and media maintain. 3,000 architects and engineers organized to correct the government's account haven't been able to get the attention of newsmongers despite years of detailed study. Also absent from yesterday's anniversary observances was any mention of the lawsuit pending in federal court to force the FBI to reinvestigate the events of that day. The lawsuit demands a decree requiring the FBI to comply with a legal mandate that it assess any evidence not considered by the official 9/11 inquiry, specifically evidence that World Trade Center buildings 1, 2, and 7 were brought down by explosive demolition. Witnesses' reports of explosions in the buildings before their collapse, along with evidence of incendiaries and explosives in the dust afterwards, were never properly investigated, as the complaint explicitly charges. There's also a proceeding pending in England to reopen the coroner's inquest into the death of a bloke who got killed in the collapse of the Twin Towers. It'll be a can of worms if the family's demand is satisfied, but it didn't rate any mention by any reporter. Another item censored out of yesterday's news was the status of a report published almost 2 years ago by a team of scientists at the University of Alaska, Fairbanks, demonstrating that the 3rd building to fall down in New York could not have collapsed because of fire. The authors, including the chairman of the university's civil engineering department, invited the public to comment on the report, but most of the public still doesn't know that the report exists. There were no news updates on the status of a federal grand jury that was supposed to have been assembled to initiate a formal investigation of the events of September 11th. The authors of a demand on the U.S. Attorney for New York City petitioned the federal district court there to issue a writ of mandamus ordering the federal prosecutor to report whether he's actually convened a grand jury in compliance with their demand. The suit to force compliance was dismissed by a corrupt federal judge and is on appeal. But you wouldn't know that from yesterday's news coverage. Law buffs might also like to know just how and why so much of the physical evidence of the building's failure could have been removed so promptly and completely from the crime scene. Newsmongers have been disinclined to ask. Instead of information on any of these events or the mysteries they address, we news consumers had to be content with tearful memorials interspersed with spates of Arab bashing, all accompanied by thoughts and prayers for the departed and their survivors. There was some discussion of the 20 years war on Afghans that followed the events of that September day, but there was no mention of the key role newsmongers played in promoting and sustaining the corrupt enterprise that government, media, and business milked for thousands of billions of U.S. dollars. This is Current Invective. I'm Steve Fournier.